On Gibbles and Bits, we're making pork butt. What do you think when you think of barbecue? You think of a pulled pork sandwich. That's what we're making. With good barbecue comes good pork, and we're gonna pull it. The first step in making your pulled pork sandwich is the night before, you gotta make yourself a brine. All that a brine is a water and salt solution with a little bit of flavor added to it that's gonna make your pork super juicy and oh so delicious. For this brine, we're using cold water. And to do that, you need to use ingredients that can dissolve in cold water. What you're gonna need is pickling salt, molasses, cloves, and whole black peppercorns. If you don't have pickling salt, you can do what I did and make your own. All I did was I took kosher salt, threw it in my blender, and just beat the crap out of it, and before you know it, you got pickled salt. The main difference of pickled salt is it's very fine, so it will dissolve in a cold solution. And for your brine, you're going to need 3/4 cup of salt, and your molasses. You're going to need about 1/2 cup of molasses. Yeah. This might take a while. We got our molasses in there, and we got our salt. It's time to add our water. You want to add enough water to cover your butt completely. So you're going to add your water. For me, it's probably going to take about a gallon of water. Now that we got our salt, our molasses, and our water all together, give it a quick whisk so it all gets mixed together. No trimming or cleaning up of any kind is really required. You're going to want all that fat during the cooking process to render down, and it'll actually give you an extremely juicy end product, and that's what you're looking for. If you cut any of that off, you wouldn't have that. You want to put it in the brine, fat side up. So you drop it in your cooler, and it should be completely submerged in your brine. Now it's time to add your peppercorns. You're going to add about 10 or so peppercorns and about 4 cloves. All this is going to do is add a little bit of extra flavor to our end product. The reason I'm using a cooler is because the best receptacle for this. If you tried to do this in a normal Tupperware, you wouldn't have enough water to meat ratio, and the brine wouldn't do its job. You're going to want this to brine for about 10 to 12 hours or overnight. If there's not enough room in your fridge for a cooler, all you got to do is take a bag of ice, put it on top of the butt, and it'll be fine. Or if it's cold enough outside, just leave your cooler outside. Good morning. It's time to get our pork out of the brine. You're going to notice it's going to be significantly heavier than when you first put it in there. And that's because it sucked in a whole bunch of moisture and flavor from the brine. Now that you got it out of the brine, you got to give it a little pat down just to get some of that excess moisture off of there. It's time to rub this butt. Just put a, pretty liberal coating, just like usual. Definitely don't be shy with it. And just kind of pat it in there. Make sure you get both sides. Now that we got the rub on, it's time to put it in our smoker. I'm going to cook this at about 210, 225 for about 12 hours. So you want to start this early in the morning, or you're going to be eating dinner super late. If you don't have a smoker and you're doing it in the oven, you're going to do it in the oven at 225 for about the same amount of time. Time to smoke. What we're going for is an internal temperature of 210 degrees. I got my thermometer set up, my smoker's up to temp. Let's do this. Butts ahoy. 11 hours later and 2 apple trees, we got ourselves a delicious smelling butt. Now the next step is, after you pull it off the smoker, is you got to wrap it in aluminum foil and let it rest for at least a half an hour. If you cut in this thing right now, all those juices are just going to flow out and they're not going to be in your belly. And nobody wants that. So all you're going to do is wrap it up. Doesn't got to be too crazy. Just wrap it up so you don't lose any juices. Now that you got it wrapped up, it's time for the hardest part, waiting. So in 30 minutes, you're about to have yourself some tasty butt. It's been about 30 minutes, or about as long as I can wait. Now it's time to dig in. With a little skill and a whole lot of patience, you too can have some delicious tasting butt. I'm GibblesNBits, and this was smoked pork. See you next time.